good life, which which can like give you a good life, which is something like when you do hard things, they allow you to have a good life, which is something that is associated with happiness, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, the guy is cooking, I shouldn't feel as though every day needs to be perfect, or every day I need to feel happy. So I need to strive to be better and not strive to be happy,
Yeah.
because I feel like a lot of the times we often get that thing twisted in a way, especially us guys. It's difficult to explain your feelings. Someone was shouting at you, or you got comments on a report or on a letter that you had written, and you feel two types of way about it. Doesn't feel so great because it's not a great feeling. How could I comment and like, yo, dude, like, what are you even saying here?
Mm.
But I guess those are the kind of things that build you. But the important thing is how you take it. It's like
Yeah.
criticism. Key is how you take it.
Definitely.
But yeah, the week has been all right, bar yesterday, but the week has been all right. Yesterday being the 11th of April. I don't know when this episode is going to go out. But yeah, other than that, it's okay, man. We swimming. We're not drowning.
That's good, man.
How are you,
So
my brother? How are
I'm
you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'd
Yeah.
say the same. Striving to be better each day, and actually not being hard on myself.
Yeah.
Just trying to see how I have improved from the previous day, and not
Mhm.
taking yesterday's struggles and making them today's. I
Mm.
recently got into a trip with this other Uber driver, and the
Oh, yeah.
wisdom these guys share sometimes,
Bro,
inspires me.
bro, bro.
And this
I
guy
had the
was
same
like,
experience yesterday, but yeah.
and this guy said
Sorry.
to me, look, what you experienced yesterday is yesterday's business. How are you tackling
Yeah.
today? And sometimes we forget to live life because we are so fixated on, the problems of yesterday instead of tackling the new opportunities that the new day brings. But other
Mm.
than that, welcome back to Rise, and just say to our listeners, if
Yeah.
you have been on the podcast, you will remember Tshehla. We had an episode about 2 years ago, and
It's been that long. Yeah.
yeah, it's been 2 years. And on that episode, Tshehla and I spoke about what finding people at places where you want to be. That was the theme of that episode. And I remember we actually recorded that episode at Res in uni
Rest,
at the
precisely.
time. You know, and there was no video at the time. We were just recording from a cell
Yeah.
phone. But yeah, a lot has happened since then. And yeah, just to call out on the viewers to please, like, subscribe, share, so that we can continue sharing such content. And to you, Tsetla, thank you for coming on the podcast once again. Episode that we did, I at times go back to it and listen to it. And
Yeah.
sometimes I laugh because I'm like, hey, there's so much growth that has happened since that point.
Yeah.
But other than that, welcome to the podcast. Setla is a very great friend of mine, former classmate. Well, still my classmate in masters.
Still classmates, man.
But
Lifelong learning. That's one thing.
lifelong
Yeah.
learning. And yeah, it's a guy that I really resonate with. Became friends with him not so long ago, but feels like we've known each other for a lifetime. And actually met him at a networking event. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And the last time we met was at a networking event.
yeah. And the last time we
Yeah.
met,
Last.
yeah, was at a networking event. So yeah, just a like-minded person who also has the hunger and the drive for life. And I'm very excited to have you back on the podcast, man. And yeah, so for the viewers, like, could you please just, introduce yourself?
Yeah, man, off the record, I mean, no, on the record now, because
On
we're
the
recording.
record, please.
My brother, dude, just, looking back on that episode, and sort of the theme that you mentioned, which was to sort of find people in places where you want to be, right? I can definitely just say that you've been testament to that, in as much as I've done it in my own, right? But you've been testament to that. When I see your growth, when I see where the podcast is now, and the kind of guests, rather the caliber of guests that you're having on this podcast, man, it's just growing from strength to strength, man. And that's honestly something to admire. That's something that we need to take notice of, as not just your friends, but also people who listen to the podcast, and go back to those earlier episodes and listen to how and what you were saying in those days, and reflecting on it, and how you speaking about things now, who you're having now. You almost foreshadowed yourself, right? You said that you're going to have a particular kind of guest on the show, of different backgrounds, and I've been looking at the posts and the updates that you've been sharing about, different people in different careers, right? As much as majority of them are aligned to the legal space, but in the broad spectrum of the legal space, so that's really, my brother, congratulations. I mean, what episode are we on now? Like, what episode number are we on now, man? Because that is actually crazy, dude. It's been what, 2 years now, two
Yeah.
full years of recording. And yeah, man, just that's amazing, dog. I just wanted to put that out there first. Yeah.
We're chasing 50.
Oh
Uh,
my days.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think we'll clock 50 in the next month or two.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you heard about the statistic that they say about podcasts and reaching 50? You're already in the top 1% of podcasts. Once you pass
yes.
episode 50, you're in the top 1% of podcasts globally, because it's just so difficult to be consistent when you don't have a backtrack. I'm going to compare it to radio. When you don't have a track that you can link to, when you don't have an advert or an ad read that you can link up to, when you don't have an ad read that you can just play, so it's difficult to have engaging conversations. It's difficult to retain an audience, so that's why majority of people never make it past episode 50, right? So you're in a really great space now, and things are just going to keep motoring on, just
Yeah,
primarily due to the fact that you're consistent, right? Forgetting about what the content of the podcast is,
this
the
is
fact that you're consistent, the algorithm loves consistency. It lives
consistency.
off of that,
Yeah.
and then you're just going to see a spike in the viewership, because all of a sudden Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, they're going to start kicking it on, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the magic number. Once you get past episode 50, or rather, things just kick on. That's how it happens. It's the magic of podcasting. So yeah, man, you're pushing my dog. That's really, it's brilliant. It's really great to see.
No, man, thanks for your support. I mean, you have officially or unofficially been my creative consultant for the past
Yeah, for a while.
2 years.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Um,
true. That's true. Yeah.
for the podcast. And yeah, just to tell you that I am in the process of writing a book. I did talk about it
Yeah.
in the previous episode,
Yes. Wow.
and we will, delve into that.
Yeah.
Um,
The show goes
but
on. Yeah.
without deviating, yeah, it's been a hard journey, I must say. Being consistent in podcasting, and when last year there was a point where I stopped interviews, and that was because I was trying to, adjust to being in Jersey, and but I missed that. Like I missed interacting with people, other than having the solo episodes. So I was like, okay, why not do both? As Chris Williamson says, nothing is impossible. You
Yeah.
just have to put your head down and do it. And for speaking to someone who has been so supportive of the podcast and what we have, achieved so far is quite a full circle moment for me. Because yeah, man, you've been there, and you're one of those Hall of Fame guests. Um,
Yes, sir.
your
100%, man.
just to say, our previous episode has not left like the Spotify charts. It has always been faring in the top five.
Wow.
So yeah, we had an excellent episode the last time we spoke. But without deviating,
Yeah,
if you could just
because
please share, who Tshehla is, where Tshehla comes
yeah,
from, and what
yeah.
Tshehla does.
Yeah, I think who is Tshehla? That's such a great question. It's just reminding me of all the interviews that you do for work. And you sort of give people this idea that, hey, I'm a hardworking individual. I put my head down. I'm a self-starter. I'm an independent worker. I work well under minimal supervision, all of that. But we never really touch on like who you really are, right? And this is a question that I also never think about as often as I should. I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and we spoke about how, what's the plan, right? Because that question of understanding who you are is linked to the plan that you have for yourself.
Mm.
Because if you're not going to ask yourself the question of who am I, then you will never be able to truly answer what the plan is, or rather to have a plan that makes sense and that aligns with the purpose, because the purpose is linked to who you are. So that key question of who I am is really important. I think when I'm gonna start off by saying I am someone who loves a good time. I am a social butterfly. I enjoy engaging with people. I love that. I love talking. I love talking to people, but most importantly, I love listening to people's stories, right? Because I think I'm always in a search for motivation. I'm always on the hunt for a story that can inspire me, right? Because you find that you meet people just at the right time, right? In as much as it might not be the person that you think you'd want to meet at a particular point in time. Say you're looking for a job, you'd want to maybe meet someone who's influential in a company in terms of the HR and the recruiting processes, right? But you'll end up meeting someone who will inspire you to maybe go and start looking at starting your own thing, or rather someone that will tell you to go and work on a particular aspect of yourself,
Yeah.
right? So I found that if I constantly engage with people, I become better, or I'm more motivated to do something, right? Not saying that I'm completely reliant on external motivation, but it plays a really big part in me getting to where I want to be, right? So I'm someone who just enjoys talking with people, right? I am someone who enjoys being out and about and learning from people's stories, because someone's journey um, can tell you about specific speed humps that you might encounter, and you will have a way on how you're gonna swerve over those speed bumps. Instead of you going head on, bumping, hitting your head on the roof, and getting injured in the process. Whereas you could have listened to someone who'd been on the same journey, identical journey as you, and would have told you, hey, man, look out for this, look out for that. This is how you handle it, right? So you're better equipped to handle life's journeys or whatever life throws at you, right? So I'm someone who enjoys engaging with people. I'm someone who enjoys being around family, right? Because I do like being at home, contrary to public opinion. I really enjoy being at home, but I enjoy being at home. Yeah, bro. People say things, man. People always say I'm always out and about. Don't get me wrong, I am, but I enjoy being at home, right? I enjoy the family setup. I enjoy being around my siblings. They've played the biggest role, apart from my mom and my dad too. They've played the biggest role in me being who I am. Because I remember I posted on Instagram the other day when it was grad season last year. I said, so I had a picture with my siblings, right? And I said, this is a visual representation of what a support structure is. And it was so true, because me going to varsity was a group effort amongst all of them,
Yeah.
right? Me being at varsity and getting through those 4 years was a group effort between all of them, right? So they were the support structure. So family plays a really important part of who I am.
Yeah.
So back to answering your question, who am I? Really, someone who enjoys being around people, someone who enjoys engaging and learning from people, and someone who enjoys laughing. Bro, I cannot tell you how many times I got into trouble throughout my entire high school and primary school life because I was just laughing, right? I
Yeah.
wasn't the instigator. I wasn't the guy who was causing trouble, but I would just laugh my head off. It would be so bad. And thank is I don't have one of the nicest laughs out there, right? So people would then think that I'm the troublemaker, right?
Yeah.
Because I'd just be laughing uncontrollably, and I can't help it. It's because I just enjoy laughing. It's a really it's my one of my favorite things, you know, and I think that's why I love comedy so much. And that's through comedy that's how I got into podcasting, and through guys like Joe Rogan, comic, guys like Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, podcasters, guys like Joey Diaz, podcasters, you know, and recently Pop Pops, podcaster now, because yeah, comedy and podcasting have this weird relationship. I don't know
Yeah.
how it is, but yeah, maybe you might have a career in comedy. We don't know yet, but could be going to.
Podcasters are funny guys. I believe I'm funny.
Yeah.
Yes. So maybe some people might agree.
Hey
But
man.
yeah,
Hey. But yeah, back to your original question, you know. So just a quick rundown essentially of where I come from. So I come from a township called Davyton in the East Rand. So the East Rand, east of Johannesburg, formerly a mining area, but the mining stopped not hundreds of years ago, but many moons ago. And really, it's just a place that's dominated by car dealerships, schools, car dealerships, uh, and clubs. Well, yeah, some clubs, you know. So that's really part of what makes up the East Rand, right? Great place to go to school, great place to learn, you know. So grew up there in the East Rand, raised by my mom, my dad from a distance, you know, um, unfortunately. But yeah, and then I went on to study at Bernie High. Bernie High was really a place where I sort of came into my own or started to become who Tshehla is, right? The Tshehla, that version that you're seeing right now, that guy was built in high school. High school provided me with a platform to learn more about finance, which is one of my big interests. You know, learn more about finance, learn more about the world. You know, being exposed to what the world really is. Played cricket, still enjoy cricket to this day. I mean, if I look at what I'm watching during my lunch break, I'm watching highlights of IPL games I played the night before. I'm watching if it's World Cup season or if it's any ICC event, international cricket event, I'm watching that, right? So cricket just plays a really big part of my life, and it's because I dedicated so much of my life over the past. What, I'm 24 now, so probably the past 12, 15 years have just been dedicated to cricket. So it's just been an important part of who I am, and largely from being in high school. You know, we had so much success, but we also had really, and I'm talking about cricket now. We had so much success, but we also had really extreme lows. I remember there was a time, I think in grade 10, where we were kicked out of the Premier League, essentially, in the East Rand. And then we had to go down. We were relegated effectively. I didn't even know that relegation is there in cricket, but hey, guys, it
it
was there.
happened. Yeah.
And we had to just like toughen up. You know, we had to toughen up and accept the cards that we'd been dealt, you know. And then a year later, we won the league, and then we were effectively promoted again. But then due to a trick, I had to put cricket on the back burner. But yeah, cricket played a really big part of my life growing up. You know, it was a place where I found solace. It was a place where I made a lot of friends. It was a place where I learned a lot about friendship, and I learned how to deal with people that you might not like, but keep it professional because we all have a common goal. You know, we
Yeah.
want to win. I hate losing, but I
Yeah.
learned how to lose, you know, and not be that individual who's a sole loser and then takes it out on the rest of the team, especially when you're in more senior leadership roles within a team structure. And I guess these are the kind of experiences that help me navigate my short career that has been professional so far. Because you learn how to operate within team dynamics, how to operate within team structures, how to operate with leaders that you might not like or
Yeah.
that you believe you might not like, because hey, what is and what isn't becomes, that line becomes a bit blurry sometimes when you're on the receiving end of criticism. So that's part of who I was and how I grew up. Then I went on to study at GWC, went on to study law. So a close family friend of mine secured me a bursary to go and study law at UWC. And yeah, that was a life-changing moment. I don't know, I think I did mention it in the previous pod that I hated it. I really did not like law because it wasn't the first choice, neither was it the second choice. neither was it nor was it the third choice, right? I absolutely hated law. But I think in final year, reality sort of hit to say, hey, man, you need to kind of either like this thing or develop some sort of an interest in it. Because if you continue to resist against it, it's going to push back harder. All right. The more I resist, the more it's going to push back. It's going to push back in the form of very low marks. It's going to push back
LLB.
in the form, you know, it's going to push back. What is, I think it's Newton's second law, right? It's going to push back as much as I'm going to push against it. It's going to push back as well. The same and equal and opposite effect on me. So it sort of clicked, I think, around towards the end of third year to say, hey, buddy, you kind of need to develop some sort of an interest. So I told myself, hey, man, let's look at what are you interested in generally. And I did mention back in high school, I learned a lot about finance, global trade, um, the stock market, hedge funds, how all of those things sort of work. And I said, okay, so there's a element of law in that space. So
Yeah.
I need to insert myself there. So that's been the dream, to try and insert myself within, not the dream necessarily, I take that back, but it's been something that I'm working towards to say, hey, how can I insert myself in that finance side of law
Yeah.
and take it from there? And then we got to choose electives, I think. Towards the end of third year. And I
Finally.
chose all commercially geared electives, not corporate law. I chose IP, so intellectual property. I chose, what else was there? Can't quite remember. But really, majority of them were geared around finance. I chose insurance law as well, I think, as well, which was quite great. I enjoyed that. So all of them were focused around what my interests were, because I had to change the mind to say, hey, man, if we can do well in what we enjoy in an environment that we might not enjoy, then it makes it a bit more bearable.
Yes,
It
true.
doesn't become as difficult as I might think it is. So I then did that and I flourished. It was a really great decision that I took. I flourished, really aced final year. And
You killed
then
it,
I
man.
remember we shot the podcast. Yeah, I know I killed it. Thank you, man.
You killed it,
Uh,
yeah.
then we shot the podcast and we spoke about being in spaces where people being in spaces with people who are where you want to be.
Yeah.
And from that moment I started to essentially live that, in as much as it might have been virtually, right? So reading up on individuals who are in spaces that I'd want to be in and who have similar backgrounds by virtue of their university studies, right?
Yeah.
Because we might not all have similar backgrounds in terms of upbringing, but the closest thing that we might have sort of similarities in would be the what we studied in high school. So I went out and I scoured the internet for individuals like these. Came across a couple of them, and that's when I started doing this whole cold email reaching out thing. This was before I really understood how LinkedIn worked, because I
Yeah.
was like, LinkedIn sort of seems like a social media platform. It is, but I sort of saw it as something like an Instagram or a Facebook, not a professional tool that it
Yeah.
really is. And I would look on different websites, because you'd be surprised how much information is out there that can get you in direct contact with people that can put you in particular places and spaces. So after that interview, um, I went out and I just did a whole lot of research. I found people's email addresses and I just started cold calling, no, not cold emailing numerous individuals. And I'm going to link the story to where I am today.
Yeah.
So I cold emailed hundreds. I think I looked at the numbers the other day, and I sent 76 emails to in like 2 or 3 months, right? Which were all just me asking for, hi, can I please just get some sort of an internship, a job shadowing, or a meeting with you? I think I also learned I need to be more specific in what
Yeah.
I want from an individual and how they can help me, but also consider how busy that individual is.
It's
But you'll also be surprised that people are not as busy as you think that they are, or rather they are busy, but they are willing to put you in their schedule to have a quick Zoom, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, have that call, build that connection, and maybe refer you to an individual who can help you on your journey, right? But you would have never been there had you not sent out that email. So I sent out these emails, and luckily there was one guy who responded to my email. This guy's name is Stefan van der Walt. He is the co-founder of Pallidus Capital. So Pallidus Capital, they're in the corporate finance space. So they advise companies on when they're engaging in private equity transactions, when they're trying to raise capital, when they're trying to um, engage in triple BE transactions, so to improve the empowerment credentials. They basically help businesses become better from a financial point of view.
Initial point.
Um, yes, and they also run a private equity fund themselves. They do a lot of creative capital solutions too. So that guy, I found him on a JSE website, which provides a list of all the JSE sponsors. So which these are companies that allow other companies to list on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange or to have a secondary listing on the JSE's AltX platform. So this is
Yeah.
where a lot of other companies, you'll find Glencore, you'll find who else has a secondary listing. So maybe they'll have the primary listing on the London Stock Exchange, and then to have exposure to Africa, considering that the JSE has the deepest pools of liquidity on the African continent, they'll have that secondary listing on AltX, which is a bit more affordable as well. It's a really good solution for companies. And so Pallidus, they also do JSE sponsorship work, and I got his contact details there because I told myself I'm sick and tired of getting info at cottonon.co.za. When I want to
Yes.
talk to the CEO, when I want to talk to the managing director,
Yeah.
right? Because you find that either your emails end up in the spam or junk folder, and
Yeah.
you get
Reach.
frustrated because you're not getting a response, and you don't feel as though, oh, man, maybe my approach is wrong, but there's been nothing wrong with your approach. It's just not landing at the right place.
Yeah.
So luckily, I found his personal email address or the personal work email address. I emailed him, sent him an email, and he responded, sent it internally to the COO, who then referred me to this wonderful lady called Naira Motala. Naira Motala is the director of Ascension Capital Partners. So they're an impact fund, private equity fund, black-owned fund, which invests in the mid-cap space. So they're essentially writing deal tickets of I mean, 25 to 75 million rand, sometimes 100 million rand, raising a lot of capital. Traditional private equity fund, and they invest in, they have specific like core investments, so investments that are going to be that serve a basic human need, which
Mm.
aren't in primary agriculture, which is a bit risky, which aren't in primary mining, etc., but basically serve a human need, and it's sustainable as well,
Yeah. So the
so they
daily
invest in,
essentials
yeah,
of like the population. Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
They have this one portfolio company that they invested in, CPB. So CPB, they are a woman-owned sort of a consumer information bureau. So something like IntelliDeck, not Intelli, what's the other, like TransUnion. So they essentially take a lot of the data from these credit bureaus like TransUnion, and then that's where your credit ratings, your credit history is all there. They aggregate that data, and then that data is used at different. They have different uses for that information. For example, a company like TimeBank will allow them to partner with them and do their whole thing, right? So I'm obviously butchering this a bit, but that's my understanding of what CPB does. You can
Yeah.
find more information online at CPB to the viewers that are listening and
Yeah.
who are watching this episode. So it's those kind of companies that they'll invest in. Now, the really beautiful thing about this company, right, is they have a tailor-made accelerator program, right?
Yeah.
So they take historically disadvantaged individuals and they take them on a 2-week accelerator program in a private equity fund. Now, the interesting thing about Ascension is that the core team is made up of about, I think, five now members, and they basically run the portfolio companies. They do the capital raising. They do a whole, basically all the important things that need to be done by the general partner in a private equity fund. And they have this program which puts you right in the middle of all of this, where you will listen in on meetings that they have with clients. You will
Yeah.
listen in on meetings that they have with the portfolio companies, right? They just give you a whole bunch of exposure and then give you multiple assignments. And then they have one big assignment. Now, this was really daunting for me. As you know, we studied LLB. LLB, there's no maths in LLB. There's no Microsoft Excel in LLB, right? There's none of that. So
Actually
I had
hate
to build a
numbers.
financial. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Majority of lawyers hate
Yeah.
numbers, right? So I had to build this financial model, and luckily, I was reading up on how you do these financial models, etc., on a listed company because the data is publicly available. So build the financial model, and you must present to the to the panel. The panel includes the directors of Ascension Capital and associates of Pallidus Capital, right? So it's pretty daunting because these are people that deal with numbers every single day, that tear apart models every single day, that understand businesses from a finance point of view and from a business building point of view every single day. And then you get Umchana, who's out here, Umchana being myself, who's going to come in and say and explain, hey guys, you need to buy this company. These are the numbers, these are the solutions, etc. So you get that sort of level of experience and exposure. And that from that email, I was able to secure that internship. I got my current job at the Competition Commission whilst I was there at Ascension Capital, and I got to meet a whole lot of people by virtue of their network. Got
Yeah.
me exposed to a number of individuals, and it all started with that one email. But where does that one email come from? From telling you that, hey, we need to be in spaces or meet people who are in spaces that we'd like to be in,
Yeah.
right? So it's so easy to say all of these things, but it's another thing to speak about it.
And to do
You
it.
see, so to do it, totally different thing.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to then start meeting more people in the private equity space, secured a bursary to go to the SAFCA. So SAFCA is the South African Venture Capital and Private Equity Association, where I'd say 95% of all private equity funds are affiliated with SAFCA. They do a lot of lobbying work for the private equity industry, educating regulators, educating people within the ecosystem, the finance ecosystem, about private equity and where it is now and where it's looking to go. So they do a lot of really great work, and they have a foundational program which is about 2 days, but it's basically the best crash course on private equity that you'll find. So
Oh,
through these finding different people in different spaces and being intentional about it as well, not forgetting that luck plays a huge part of all of this. That's how I was able to get into these spaces and take advantage of the position and the job that I have currently and leverage that job to meet more people, have substantive engagement with people, and just be out there and get close to where I'd like to be.
yeah.
So that's essentially who I am, the background briefly, and where I am now. So yeah, that's I'm very long-winded. As you know, I love talking, I love podcasting because there's no limits on time.
There's
So
no
yeah,
limits.
that's yeah,
Yeah. No, that is okay. I think it's one of the reasons why we're friends.
yeah.
Talk a lot. Uh, so you spoke about something about the cold emails, and I like
Yes.
this because quite recently I secured an interview that I called you on.
Oh
By
yes, yes,
interview, I
yes, yes.
mean a discussion, not really an interview for like
An interview
not
like
a,
this, yeah.
yeah, but like a discussion about the person's journey, how they got to where they got to. And yeah, although I'm not going to mention the CEO, but
Yes.
it was through that, and through referrals, someone knowing this person and then leading you to somewhere. So um and our friend Jacob, we also had an
Yes.
episode 2 years ago, and I hope he will
Yeah.
come back to the
He
podcast.
has to.
quite soon. And he said a very significant thing that never escaped me. He said, I live by sending DMs,
Mm.
or I DM on LinkedIn. So basically, I slide through the DMs on
Yeah,
LinkedIn. And that's
yeah.
what he said. And, you know, I recently had, because I have people that I mentor informally. So, and I was speaking to this chap, and he said, "Look, you know, this cold email, cold texting thing gets to me because sometimes people read what you say and they don't actually even respond to you, you know." And for me, I mean, I've learned that look, if you don't respond, it's your own baby to deal with. I'm gonna move on. But how do we deal with the disappointment when we're knocking at doors and no one answers?
I think the most important thing is to accept that 90% of people are going to not respond, but realize that all you need is one person or two people to respond, right? So if we can go in with that mindset, and I think someone spoke about it, and I read somewhere that humans, we struggle to comprehend probabilities, right? So that's why we get so disappointed when people don't respond. But we don't realize the chances of people responding are very low
Yeah,
from the get. So if we can accept that early on to say, chances are people are not going to respond. If I send 100 emails, I might get 10 responses, of which seven might not be great.
yeah,
But then I've got three great responses, and that's all you need to start out with, right?
yeah,
Because from that three, you could end up getting two or three more genuine connections from that three,
yeah,
right? And that's what it's about. It's about quality. Because if we look at it from a quantity point of view, we're not going to get anywhere, right? And
sure.
that idea or the reason behind you sending that email is because you want to get somewhere. There's a specific destination that you have in mind.
Yes.
Now, if you are going to go in and say, I have multiple destinations, okay, that already shows that you're not sure, you're not certain about where or which direction you want to go in,
Yeah,
firstly. Secondly, it's about having genuine connections, people who are really and truly going to put you on, right? And I'm going to
yeah,
use that colloquial term, put you on. People who are going to put you in really great spaces, people who are going to help you get to where you want to be, get to that destination, right?
yeah,
So early on, accept, hey, chances are I'm not going to get good responses, but let me send it anyway because
yeah,
you don't know. That's another thing, it's sort of like that whole Schrodinger's cat theory, right? Is once that cat is in the box, you don't know if it's dead or alive
yeah.
until you open the box,
And you find
right?
out.
So and then you find out. So
Yeah,
you have to send that email because inaction is a decision that also has serious consequences because
yeah,
you're not where you want to be
yeah,
because you chose not to do anything. So from the onset, how to deal with it is accept that, hi, you know what, I'm not going to get a favorable response, but I'm going to send it anyway, and I'm going to send out good energy to the universe
yeah,
to say, universe, I'm sending out this email. I hope to get a really great response. If I don't, it's not the end of the world. I'll send out another one.
yeah.
You see, so that's how I think people should deal with it. And I think this is something that also works in your intimate relationships, your relationships with people, and it's all about your expectations. Um, I'm not saying have low expectations or anything of that sort because that also breeds negative energies around you. But essentially, understand that chances are you might not get one, but I'm going to be optimistic about it, and I'm going to be real about it, firstly. So that's really how I think I deal with it. And I think other people should also have a similar approach to it to understand, hey, I might not get one, but if I get one, that's golden. That's striking gold.
I know that's good. You know, Theo Von always says, let fear be the driver. And,
Mm,
you know, I always use that and add that, you know, in whatever I try to do or want to do, for instance, with guests, you know, um, before I reach out to someone I potentially want to be a guest on the show, and be overwhelmed with like nervousness and thinking, is this person going to, I mean, is this person going to say yes or no? But I've moved beyond that now. It's not a matter of the person saying yes or no. It's a matter of, look, this is what is happening. I believe that this will be of value to you on these points. And it will be a value to the podcast because you have this to offer, and you leave it to the person to decide whether they want it or not. But over and above that, I also believe that as the young individuals who are, navigating through life, wanting to establish ourselves, we should also have that element of faith as a driver. Like, you should have the faith that things will
Mm,
go right. And if they don't, well, you will have learned from it. And you
100%.
you you raise something very important by saying that we need to learn how to lose. Like,
Yeah.
losing is not the be or end all. Like, that's not where the story ends. But what can we derive from that? Can you recount any point in your own life or career where you felt like, no, now I'm down bad. And how did
Yeah.
you like bounce from experiencing that? How did you
Yeah.
bounce
I
from?
think that, yeah, 100%. I think what comes to mind is my struggle with getting articles. It was a nightmare. It wasn't a really pleasant experience. That was part of, and I think in recent history, one of the lowest moments when you question your ability. You say, "I've got the marks. I think I'm saying the right things." Because I'm not, I was unfamiliar with the recruitment process. I've got the marks. I think I come from a great university. I think I've got a great personality. I think I'm someone that would be good to work with. My marks show that I'm someone who can learn. I think that they're the biggest indicator of my ability to learn,
Yeah,
right? Not that I know everything, but the ability to learn. They're a really great indicator of that. And that was a really low moment because you realize, hey, not only your friends, but people around you have articles, in second year, third year, they've got articles, and you just question yourself because I also thought that that's pretty much the only way I can be successful in the legal space is to be admitted. I thought if I don't have that, then it means it's almost meaningless for me to complete this degree.
yeah,
But the one thing that I kept telling myself was keep applying, bro. Something will come up. Keep
plan.
keep the faith.
Yeah,
Be resilient. It's rejection is what comes with the package. A particular lady that you might not like you, but that doesn't mean that that's the end of the world. You need to
yeah,
go
those
out there
ones.
and find someone else who
Yeah,
will like you equally. So I that was a really, really, really low moment because you look at the time as well. You're in your final year, you still haven't secured a job for the next year, let alone articles, a job for the next year. You look at South Africa's unemployment rate and youth unemployment in particular, it's over 50%. You look at the realities and the circumstances that you grow up in. You're in Davidton, delegation, it's a township. It's not the greatest environments that you want to be in.
yeah,
You look at things that you might like and want like to do. I'm a music person, as you know. I saw events come and go past me. Ultra, I would have loved to attend Ultra, but I didn't have the finances for that. I would have loved to attend other different concerts, because that's what makes me happy. Attending festivals, listening to great music, attending shows. And you've got that at the back of your mind that saying, next year would be great to attend this. This is a specific act that's coming to South Africa. Or, just the the comfort of just having a job, or rather
yeah,
the comfort of having an income and a really steady and decent income, right? So these are all of the factors that were playing in my head at the time. And it almost seemed as though the odds were stacked against me.
yeah,
And you know, how I got out of that was I kept applying. I was resilient until you eventually secure articles, or until you get a job, or until you're in a place which might lead you to be being employed. So that's how I sort of dealt with that specific instance where I was losing. and because it's the most recent experience and almost the most painful experience, because there are other graduates who are going through the same thing. Law is the LLB degree is so complex in terms of its attractiveness to the job market. This is my view, right? And a view that I don't know everything about the job market, but it's difficult to get a job that is decent, that pays you a living wage in South Africa with an LLB degree.
Yeah,
Maybe someone else can comment on this video when you share it on LinkedIn, when you share it on Instagram, to say, hey, these are other jobs. And I want those people to come so that we can put other people, other graduates on, so that they can know that these are the spaces that you can find in. But when I look at the legal fraternity, when I look at the LLB degree, it's tough to get a job out there with an LLB degree if you're not coming from particular universities, right?
yeah,
If you're not starting early out with your search for articles or a job, if you're not going to get really great marks, it's tough. If you're going to get average marks, it's going to be really difficult,
it's difficult.
right?
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that I went through, or rather the thing that I went through, and other people are also going through the same thing right now. So I hope that this podcast lands on that person's For You page or on the YouTube page. I hope so, because that person needs to, one, keep persevering, but two, be realistic as well. And
Yeah.
this is also a difficult conversation to have, to say, how must I be realistic, right? How do you expect me to be realistic? People say you're a lawyer, lawyers make money. When you look around you in your community, wherever you are, in a small town, in the big city, lawyers, they have their offices and they look like they're doing well. So and then we ask ourselves, how do I then become that person? I studied the legal degree, I studied the LLB. How do I get into that space? So I hope people can comment down and say, these are the spaces where you can find jobs as a LLB
A big
graduate with
graduate.
zero experience, because I think that it's near impossible. It just requires way too much luck,
Yeah.
to get a job in as a lawyer that pays a living wage as well. Yeah.
I think LLB, I mean, I don't disagree with your point there. I think in as much as, I don't know, we've been trained to think that the only way to have a fulfilling career is to
Hmm.
go through the article route. Um,
Yes.
but there are other routes, right? And I think as a course or as a degree, it's the most transferable uh,
Mm.
into different sectors, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so I don't know, but that is something worth thinking about because sometimes you will hear people being interested in other sectors, but the advice they will receive is, okay, actually get admitted and then
Hmm.
you can pivot to whatever sector that you're looking at. So that's a very important thing for us to like consider and actually break down because Tshehla, sometimes I think if you are blessed to or fortunate enough to have secured a job, um, you shouldn't shy away from those that don't have a job. Let's
Mm.
continue asking
Yeah.
ourselves questions as to how can that situation be resolved, for instance, being in corporate, like let me not forget the real struggles that a candidate attorney faces in Soweto because
Yeah.
I find myself in center, you know. And it's so easy to do that, in the past week. I went out towards I think I was in Northwest. I'm not sure if I was still in
Okay.
Gauteng or
Yeah.
Northwest. But between Northwest and Gauteng, to attend an
Yeah.
event. And on my way there, it's so amazing how your surroundings impact you. Um, I had not been out of, the richest square mile in Africa for some time. So
Hmm.
going out there made me realize, that our people are struggling, you know.
Yeah.
Driving past through a township, driving past a farming community, it then reminds you that if you stay at one point for too long, you sort of become oblivious to the reality, you know?
True.
And it's so important that sometimes, no matter how we advance in our careers, we always remember those behind us, right? And that's the whole point of even this podcast. It's to empower people through stories, to tell the black child, to tell the doubtful child that, look, Tshehla went through this. Tshehla could not find articles, but Tshehla was able to emerge from that and, progress in his own right. But as we close the episode, because I see that you are out of time. I don't know.
Yeah, we never have enough time, man.
When
We need to do the Joe Rogan stuff where we have 3.5 hour podcast, bro. I think that's where
Now,
we need to be
I
at.
think I think that's where we headed, hey?
There's just
Um,
too much to unpack, man.
yeah, there is a lot to unpack, but I
Yeah.
think that's one thing that we always need to remind ourselves, that even if we are the highest high-rise building in South
Yes.
Africa with glasses and everything, let's not
Yeah.
forget the plight and struggle of others that we shared dormitories with, that we shared classrooms with. Because the point of the
Yeah.
matter is not everyone, not all of us are in the positions that we find ourselves in. And we need to actually try our best in empowering. And by empowering, it doesn't have to do with money or anything. It's simply just assisting the person within your reach. And if we can all do that, I mean, that could translate into something very great and it could be, of benefit. Um,
I fully agree. I fully agree, my brother.
yeah. And if you could send a message to a version of yourself, the student Tshehla that recorded the episode with me at Chris Hani residence in
Yeah.
2023, what would you say to that Tshehla?
Hmm. What I'd say to that guy is, upon reflection, I'm very proud of you. Secondly, keep going, bro. Don't get caught in the headwinds. Don't seek external gratification. Just keep going. Make the unpopular decision and keep pushing. Keep reaching out. Do not stop doing that because it'll get you to a point where you're in a better position. It'll get you to a point where you're proud of yourself. And now that I think back, I am proud of myself for persevering and to be consistent at persevering,
Yeah.
because it's one thing to persevere, but are you consistent in being that individual that perseveres, right? So I just tell that guy, keep going, don't stop, keep going. There will be rejections, plenty, but keep going. All you need is, and my brother, my older brother always say, he's like a locust. All he needs is one wind and he's gone.
Yeah.
So all you need, Tshehla 2023, all you need is one wind and it's coming. Just keep going. Because the more you keep going, the closer you get to that one gust of wind. And that's all you need. And you're flying away to new and greener pastures.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
that's what I
think
say to them.
sometimes people make jokes about, the type of content that I make and being invested in what I'm invested in. Not
Yeah.
that it bothers me, but we need to be intentional about where we want to be, how we
Yeah.
want that for ourselves, how we empower ourselves. I think, being intentional sets the ground. Of course, life will have its own plan and everything, but you can't just be a leaf, a shaking leaf that is being blown by the wind. You need to be steadfast. You need to have your own vision. Um, and you need to be intentional about your dreams and to buttress your point, to be unapologetic about it, and that's one thing that has helped me in my own journey, to be unapologetic about the things that
Yes.
I want, things that I do. And if we look across our shoulders all the time, we wouldn't do anything.
You wouldn't do anything
We
because you
wouldn't do.
wouldn't know what's coming. You wouldn't know how to prepare for what's coming because you're just looking behind your shoulders the entire time.
Yeah.
You want to form fit into what society has told you, how you should be, how you should act, what you should believe in. And I always tell people two things. One, we need to learn to want what we want to want. Chris Williamson, right? And I always tell people another thing is you know where you want to be and you know the cost of getting there. No one else knows the cost of getting there. No one else knows where you want to be. So you need to be intentional about how you get there, what you sacrifice in order for you to get there. Because it's your dream, it's your vision, it's your plan, it's your destination that you want to get to. So you know what it's going to take to get there. You don't need anyone else. You certainly don't need Tshehla to come and tell you. You don't need Snalo to come and tell you how you're going to get there and what you need to do. You need to take charge and go out there and get that thing that you want because you want it, not anyone else. Right. So those two points are so linked. Learning to want what you want to want and understanding where you want to be and what it's going to cost for you to get there without having other people to remind you of where you want to be.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be very intentional about things moving
Yeah.
forward and not just talk. You see,
Sure. Um, something I recently learned is in setting out our dreams or goals,
yep.
I'm becoming more focused now on the how.
Mm.
And in saying
Oh,
that, so
yes.
let's say there's something you want within a year. You want to achieve
Yes.
X in a year. What am I doing today? What am I doing in the week? What am I doing in the month to get to that point?
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes we might feel like, okay, motivating ourselves, setting goals, setting priorities is so overwhelming because we are not setting a clear plan on doing that. We are not just going to instantly get to that point. We need to start today. And I like
Yeah.
using the
I
analogy
fully
of a curriculum. If you have
okay.
a ten chapter book, you don't read it
Mhm.
once, right? You start with a section.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
the lecturer, for instance, tells you finish the other section for homework, right? And you need to be
Yes.
very strict on your timelines for that. So, in trying to advance yourself, you need to have that. And yeah, don't be overwhelmed by setting plans and all of that. Like, just identify what you want to achieve at that point, at the time you want to achieve it, and then ask yourself, what are you doing today to get
Yeah.
there? And you need to understand that this is atomic, like in the sense
Mhm.
you are building on it, right? So I think
Mhm.
our generation is very instant. We want things to come, like
Yeah.
like how fast this tech is coming to us, and
Yeah.
and
That's
and
so true.
how fast these gadgets that we have all around us are working.
Yes.
But in trying to get to a certain point, it doesn't happen in a day, right? We need to look at ourselves on how we carry ourselves on a daily. And it was a very important example used by James Clear in his book
Yes.
called Atomic
Atomic habits.
Habits, right? And he makes the example of the UK cycling team, which was not performing that well,
Terrible.
right? They
Yes.
were very terrible, but they wanted to be one of the best teams. And they then asked themselves, what can we do now?
Now.
What are these small things that we can do now? So you are only that far from the dreams that you want. You have the grit, you
Mhm.
have the perseverance, you have the vision, But in actually realizing it, you have to action, and in actioning and in executing a plan for yourself, don't pressurize yourself. Start today and then,
Mhm.
you know, grow from today, and then ask yourself, okay, what can I do in this week? You know?
Yeah,
So I think in the next episode that we have, I don't know when, which will
yeah.
surely
Soon,
be longer
hopefully.
than today's,
Yes.
we can have the conversation, you know. But Tshehla, thanks, my brother. It's been quite a pleasure knowing you. It's been quite a great ride that we've had, and I have no doubt that you are going to go far and you're going to excel. And yeah, I mean, I'll be here, man. And yeah, I'm very proud of you. So please keep shining. Please keep inspiring. You inspire me so much. I might not really tell you all the time, but yeah, you inspired me so much, and I'm grateful to have friends like you and the others that are within our circle, because supporting each other is everything. And even with what I'm doing now, I think you saw it before I could even see it myself, you know. And I'm thankful for that. So keep shining, and yeah, don't be scared of living out who you are, you know. You have an amazing head on your shoulders, protected at all costs. Um, and yeah, man, like continue thriving, and yeah, just kill it, man.
Good. Man, lost for words, bro. Yeah, super lost for words, man. I think thank you. Firstly, yeah, thank you. That's really what I can say. I think you've touched on something so important, that I need to continue to live out who I am, and unashamedly so. Just yeah, thank you, my brother. I think the podcast I know is going to grow, but most importantly, I know you're going to grow and keep growing. And support structure in whatever form that it takes is critical to that growth.
Yeah,
Having someone to rely on, having a team to rely on, that becomes a winning formula for a winning individual, for a global star that you'll become. Is you have people around you that you can rely on, that are going to be honest and frank with you. So yeah, cherish that, and really thank you, my brother. I think I can't wait to have the next episode where we can unpack things and touch on more um, interesting topics, and interesting, I use interesting for lack of a better word, but more sensitive, more deep topics that people don't like to talk about, or are
yeah.
thinking about but never voice
Want to
them
talk.
out,
Yeah,
you know? So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that, my brother. I mean, I hope this podcast can just continue to grow. I know it's going to grow. People, tune in. Make sure you get your weekly, bi weekly fix of Rise, because this podcast is going places. I know every time I listen to an individual that you have, I'm leaving with something. I started this thing where whichever podcast I'm listening to, I need to have something I take away from it.
yeah,
Right. And I think people should also adopt that thing if
yeah.
they aren't doing it already. Maybe I'm too slow, but make sure that you have something that you're going to get from an episode, right? Make sure, be it a name, a somebody, a company, be it a
Message.
quote to live by, a message. I think that's what people today should
Yeah,
get from listening to this episode. Find a message and take that in, learn something from today, because I certainly have, and keep doing that. Consistency really, I think consistency is the mother of success. In as much as, yeah, consistency is the mother of success. Perseverance, yes, is too, but consistency is the
that's
mother
it.
of success. And you are definitely showing that, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. And the last parting shot. What can you say to the person listening right now, who just doesn't know what to do, what to say? Maybe they have achieved that thing, but they're too overwhelmed, or maybe they've just given up, or they're too, I don't know. But what will you
Mhm.
say to the listener listening right now?
The one with success, I think, and it's graduation season, so you'll have a number of guests who have graduated, a number of listeners rather, who have graduated. And I think the big thing that they should take away is bask in the glory. You know what it took to get to this point. You knew how hard it was to get to walk across that stage. You know what it took, the sacrifices that other people took for you to have this moment. So bask in that glory and cherish that moment. To the individual who's unsure and uncertain about where they are, what to do, where to go from now, think of where you'd like to be. Think of the things that make you happy. And then think of how it would feel to be known as the person who achieved that great thing, whatever it is to you. We have different versions. Think about the child that you're going to inspire when they read about you who had achieved such great and miraculous things. Think about the joy that it'll bring to your family, your immediate family, your mother, your father, your brother, your sisters, your wife, your husband, your children. Think about how they would feel when they tell other people about you. Think about how good it would feel to be known, and not to just be known, but to be the person that has achieved such great things. So find that feeling, think about that feeling, envision that feeling, and then decide on what is this great thing that I'd like to achieve for myself. And I think if you can start there by saying, what is this great thing by that I'd want to achieve, you are moving in the right direction. It will help you decide on what's the specific thing and where you'd want to go. What are the specific outcomes of getting to that specific destination? You
Yeah,
lost. So go and identify your strengths, go and identify your weaknesses, work on them,
yeah,
amplify those strengths, you know, be intentional about finding out who you are and what makes you happy, what gives you a purpose. Let's put happiness aside, and I think let me even delete that. Let Think about what gives you a purpose. What would you like to do when you wake up in the morning that you'd like to do, that you will feel good, that will make you happy, and that you're doing it every single day that never feels like work? If you can find that thing and think about how it would feel to be the greatest at that thing or to be known as a specialist in that thing, then you're on the right track if you are lost. But self discovery and understanding who you are is very important. And that's why I always say learn to like what you learn to want what you want to want. Learn to like what you want to like, not what other people are telling you what you should like. And that's part of what's causing the disorientation. That's causing you to feel lost because you've got what the world is telling you and not what your heart is telling you, what your mind is telling you. So you have those different conflicts, and that's causing you to be in this state of, how would I put it, not knowing,
yeah,
not having a compass, not having your bearings in order. So I think really just go out there, look at yourself, look at the things that you like, look at the things that you like and what it would cost for you to get to that place. And
yeah,
then think about that feeling. And I think the feeling is very important. How would it feel for other people to know you? How would it feel for you to know yourself as that person? How
yeah,
would it feel for your family to know you as that person? How would it feel for other children who were in similar situations as you were to know that this guy was in a similar situation as I'm in currently, and I'm inspired by him? And then from there, things should start moving in the right direction. It's going to take time. And also remember that it's going to take time, but the time will come. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much, my brother. I
No,
think
thank you, man.
we had a great episode. I'm
Excellent
definitely going to
conversation.
schedule more time next time, and we'll go
100%.
as long as we can. Mara,
Yeah.
Tshehla ya tau, ke a leboha ntate.
Thank you,
Um,
Abuti. Thank you,
until
Abuti.
next time, keep shining, and
Thank you,
yeah,
my brother.
don't lose
Killer.
the faith. Um,
Always keeping it, my brother.
yeah. To our listeners, viewers, if you are tuning in to Spotify or Apple Music, or on YouTube, please do like, comment on this episode, and also share so that we can keep on sharing the message. and produce more content that will make us grow, that will uplift us, that will empower us so that we can be better beings, better individuals, better role models to others who are coming um, up. But other than that, this is Nalo Matubatuba, and I'll see you guys.